Chapter 3. Sylas's Journey. The air grew heavy with a deep, lingering mist as Sylas Thorne moved silently through the dense, ancient forest surrounding Ashvolk. Shadows twisted beneath the canopy, where the moonlight filtered down like silver threads woven into the leaves. Her senses were alive, attuned to every rustle and creak of the woodland. Sylas's Eladrin nature made her walk with the silent grace of a forest cat, her footfalls barely making a sound on the soft, mossy ground. The whispers had brought her here, fragments of dreams, flashes of visions. She saw flames licking the sky, the cries of the earth, and the luminarious gem pulsing with power in a distant, unseen place. The wind seemed to carry voices, the trees murmuring secrets in a language that only she could understand. She knew there was a disturbance in the balance, a corruption creeping through the land like a sickness. "Patience, Sylas," she muttered to herself, her voice barely more than a breath. "The forest will guide us." She closed her eyes for a moment, grounding herself. She could feel the ancient roots beneath her, spreading wide and deep, and the soft heartbeat of the earth below. As a druid, her connection to nature was her greatest strength. Her hands brushed over the tall ferns and old bark, as if drawing energy from them. In response, the forest seemed to open to her, showing a clearer path forward. Her fingers tightened around the shaft of her oak staff, and with a quiet exhale, she continued. Sylas had been tracking something, no, several somethings, that moved through the woods like specters. She could feel the unnatural chill in the air, the oppressive weight of fear. The animals were silent. Even the insects seemed to have disappeared, leaving the forest eerily quiet. Ahead, the mist thickened, and through it she caught fleeting glimpses of movement, shadows darting between the trees. Sylas slowed her pace, her ears twitching at the faintest of sounds. The Dreadhowl Knolls were near. These gnolls were unlike any she had encountered before. Pale-furred and spectral, their eyes glowed in the darkness like embers, and their howls carried a bone-chilling dread that pierced through the forest. They hunted at night, shrouded in fog, and moved with a cunning far beyond their brutish kin. Sylas had heard tales of their terror, but seeing them firsthand was a different matter. She paused, crouching low among the roots of a twisted oak, her eyes scanning the shadows. A faint, guttural growl echoed through the mist, followed by another, answering in turn. Sylas's grip tightened on her staff, her knuckles whitening. She could sense their hunger, their madness. A low howl broke the silence, rising to a blood-curdling crescendo. It was a call, a signal. From the depths of the mist, she saw them emerge, creeping closer, their forms barely visible. 4 of them, each moving with a predatory grace that spoke of intelligence and malice. One was larger than the rest, its fur patchy and ragged, with the gnarled horns of a twisted shaman cresting its head. Sylas steadied her breath. She could feel the rhythm of the forest around her, the ancient power that flowed through every leaf and stone. She needed to think quickly. These creatures were not to be underestimated. She whispered an incantation, and the roots of the trees around her began to writhe and twist, creating a low barrier between her and the approaching gnolls. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses to the flora around her, seeking aid. The trees responded, their branches creaking as they bent low, shrouding her in shadows. The leader of the gnolls, the shaman with the gnarled horns, stopped suddenly. It sniffed the air, its lips curling back in a snarl. The others halted behind it, their glowing eyes narrowing as they searched the mists. Sylas watched them carefully. She needed to know what they were after, why they were here in these woods. Then, without warning, the shaman lifted its head and howled again, but this time it wasn't a signal. It was a challenge. The air grew colder, and Sylas could feel the ground beneath her rumble with dark energy. She whispered another prayer to the spirits of the forest, and the roots around her tightened, ready to lash out. The gnolls lunged, claws extended, teeth bared. Sylas thrust her staff into the ground, and the earth erupted around her. Thick roots shot up from below, tangling around the legs of the first attacker, pulling it down with a shriek. Another gnoll leaped over its fallen comrade, swinging a jagged, rusted blade. Sylas parried with her staff, the clash of wood and metal ringing out in the fog. She pushed back, her eyes narrowing. The shaman watched from the rear, murmuring in its foul tongue. The air crackled with dark magic. Sylas knew she had to move fast. The gnoll was summoning something. With a swift motion, she tapped her staff to the ground again, sending a wave of brambles bursting forth. The gnolls yelped as the thorns tore at their flesh, but they were relentless. One gnoll broke through, claws slashing at her cloak, tearing the fabric. Sylas spun, delivering a sharp blow to its snout, sending it reeling. The shaman's incantation reached its peak, and a bolt of dark energy shot out toward her. Sylas raised her hand, calling on the spirit of the forest to shield her. The bolt shattered against an invisible barrier, but the force sent her stumbling back. She steadied herself, her heart pounding in her chest. She needed to end this quickly. Summoning her strength, she called forth the winds. The mist swirled around her as she chanted, growing into a fierce gale that swept through the clearing. The gnolls struggled against the wind, their howls lost in the roar. Sylas pushed harder, drawing on the power of the storm. The winds became a vortex, lifting the gnolls off their feet and slamming them into the trees. The shaman snarled, its eyes blazing with fury. It leapt forward, claws crackling with dark lightning. Sylas met it head-on, her staff clashing with its claws, the air filled with the sound of thunder. She felt the power of the forest coursing through her veins, and with a final, defiant cry, she drove the shaman back. The gnoll stumbled, the dark energy around it dissipating. Sylas raised her staff high, and with a surge of druidic power, she called upon the very trees themselves. Thick branches swung down like hammers, smashing into the shaman with bone-crushing force. It let out a final, gurgling cry before collapsing to the ground, defeated. As the last of the gnolls fled into the mist, Sylas allowed herself a moment to breathe. She knelt down, touching the earth, feeling the pulse of the forest slowly return to normal. The danger had passed, but the disturbance was still there, a dark undercurrent running through the veins of the world. She knew now more than ever that her journey to Kael'dath was not just about seeking answers. There was a threat, one that twisted nature and threatened the balance. She would have to face it head-on, and she would need allies to do so. As she stood and resumed her path, she felt the forest whisper to her once more. She wasn't sure what lay ahead, but she knew one thing: this was only the beginning.